Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
We've been waiting to do this video for a while now. These are the brand new Candide skis from the man, the myth, the legend, Candide Skis. My personal favorite skier, probably since I was that big.
Other than like my dad, Andy Kaplan, my freestyle coach at Loon, yeah, it's Candide.
Candide takes the cake over
Yeah.
my mom and dad. Sorry,
Oh,
Mom.
man.
Sorry, Mom and Dad. So yeah, this is really exciting. A little bit of backstory. They reached out to us. Gosh, it must have been like late March last year. They had the skis. We really had to kind of scramble to get the skis here. And I, to be honest, I don't remember how much season was left, but I feel like we got them in April.
It wasn't March.
Yeah.
We were kind of scraping together at the last minute there, for sure.
Totally. So I thought this was a good place to start. We've skied all of these, which is awesome. I don't think too many people have skied them. I don't think too many people have even like seen them in person,
Right.
let alone ski them. So we have skied them definitely enough to like have an impression of them and have some thoughts about them. But at least for me, I want to ski them more before I put any kind of like review stamp on anything.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and it's more fair to say this is the line overview and introduction.
Yeah, first impressions.
Yeah, versus like a detailed review of a Resort 101.
Yeah, so if there are things in this video that you're looking for and you don't find them, we will follow up with really in-depth reviews of at least these two skis. As we've talked about before, sometimes it's hard to get the proper conditions to test a 121 around here. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to ski them more, but I'm excited to talk about what I think so far.
Sure.
So they basically all share the same exact construction. Do you want to share that construction with us, Bob?
Yeah, and like you said, they're the same, and it's all kind of, I don't want to say simple because I don't want.
It's relatively simple.
It's relatively simple.
It's not like a Sender 104 Ti.
Right. There's not a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and they even go so far as to say it's a proprietary mix, which I always like. They're not gonna. They're going to be a little bit veiled about it.
Well, and that maybe this is a good opportunity to say that like a lot of things about these skis seem somewhat veiled.
Yep.
Probably the best example is I have yet to see a stated turn radius on paper.
Right.
We can talk about the shapes, and we will talk about the shapes, but I thought that was really interesting, and we were just chatting about Candide as a person, and like, how much do you know about Candide? How much does anybody know about Candide? Like,
Yeah, not a whole lot.
We were talking about it at home last night. Like, he's a pretty, not secretive, but he's a pretty private person.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't share his personal life. Like, all I really know about Candide is how he skis.
Right. He's from France.
Right. So I think it's like fitting that with his skis, seemingly they're focusing more on how they ski and less on like the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah.
So take it away, Bob.
Okay. Proprietary mix. A veiled mix of Poplar and Polonia. So, you know, Polonia is mixing that lighter weight and stiffer flex, and the Poplar just feels a little bit more substantial.
And the Polonia is a little bit of a departure from what we saw in any faction Candide skis or any Manas.
Yeah, they lean towards the beach side of
Poplar
the spectrum.
and beach,
Yeah, so we can expect a little bit lighter weight and a slight more reactivity out of this style of ski. And then they're using the term fiberglass wrap. It's kind of hard to tell where translation gets lost or altered.
Always is.
Like I get the impression that it's a full wrap of fiberglass with carbon stringers interwoven into there rather than one layer on top and one on the bottom. Again, this is something that we can get more details and clarify later on, but at least my impression is that it's a full wrap of the core with fiberglass and carbon stringers.
Yep.
And that's about it.
That's pretty much it.
The top sheet, I think, is the other kind of standout part of it with, you know, this kind of textured top sheet material. almost like DPS. You know,
Yeah,
that's
the
my,
closest thing that I could.
Yeah.
Or Rangers.
yep,
The Ranger line is pretty similar with this texture. And I mean, these, I don't feel great saying this, but these skis were kind of thrashed around in like late season spring conditions. And they're in pretty darn good shape.
Candide doesn't take it easy on his
Exactly.
skis, and
No.
nor should we.
Totally.
So,
Right. So I think, excuse me, I think durability is
Yep.
a pretty cool part of the conversation. And yeah, that's about it for shape.
for build.
Excuse me, for construction. And I think like you could say some overall things about what happens with that construction. I think they're pretty darn light.
Yep.
We can kind of look at weights as we go through them. And I think the feel and the flex pattern is very snappy and very energetic, which makes sense bringing that Polonia into it. We've talked about that with other skis too. It's a very energetic material. And that's like, so far, for me, probably the biggest difference I feel compared to Mana skis.
Yeah, I agree. And without getting too deep into Mana, like
Yeah.
that, you know, that ski had the rubber underfoot, and it just
Yeah.
feels a little bit more lumbering,
Planted.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So really the only reason I bring that up is because I know that people have already seen questions and comments kind of
Yep.
wondering about the differences between Mana. I've seen some people going as far as saying like, are these even different?
Right.
Like, are these at all different than his faction skis, or are they at all different than the Mana skis? And the simple answer, and I say that with confidence, is yes.
Right.
These are new skis. There are a lot of similarities. You know, when we look at the shape and the side cut dimensions and everything, like, you can draw a lot of similarities, but there are always differences as well.
But like if you made a Jeff Nagel Pro model 3 different times,
Yeah,
like how different would those end up being?
a little bit.
A little bit.
Right.
You know, it's not like you're
No, it makes sense.
reinventing your own ski.
Yeah.
3 different times.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we get into each ski here?
No. Maybe it'll
Okay.
come up organically.
So maybe we'll start by saying some overall things about the shape. They're all twin tips.
Yeah, good thing.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yep.
They all use an elliptical side cut. Or elliptical turn radius, excuse me, which is something that we have seen before.
Yep.
And have seen in Candide influenced skis. And I think it's very interesting because it's like the opposite conversation that we have with Vocal skis, with Vocal's 3D turn radius.
Yeah.
So in these skis, you get a tighter radius in the tips, longer through the center of the ski, and then tighter again in the tail, although from what I've read and heard, and I think know at this point, the tip is a little shorter than the tail.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, and I think we can have some interesting conversations about that. So, to start, obviously we get 3 skis. This is the narrowest. Can I have the other one?
Sure.
So this is the 101. It's called the Resort 101, and it feels an awful lot like a park ski to me.
Yeah, and we've seen a bunch of new 101s come through just this year,
Yep.
and this is one of them. So it's kind of nice to have fresh in your mind that this is a new park twin tip ski that you're probably going to love.
Yeah, so that was really my first impression of it, and I'm interested to get your take, Bob, because obviously we're very different skiers, and something like this is like, you know, if I had a Jeff Nagel Pro model,
Yeah.
it might be this, honestly. And you've heard me say, like, or you've seen me really excited about the amount of twin tips for 2024. And every time I was saying that, like in comparison videos and ski
Yep.
test and stuff like that, it was so hard for me
Yeah, you have to bite your tongue.
not to bring
Yep.
this one up, because this was such a big
Yep.
reason why I felt that way. So pretty cool ski. Looking at shape here, 129, 101, 125 for side cut dimensions. So it is not truly symmetrical side cut. What is interesting is it is truly symmetrical rocker, and I believe the numbers were 44 centimeters of tip and tail rocker.
That sounds right to me as well.
So that's kind of an interesting concept, is having symmetrical rocker profile, but not quite symmetrical side cut, although it's close enough that it almost could be. And then this ski does have camber underfoot, but there's not much. And there's not much camber in any of these skis.
Yeah, they're stating 2 millimeters for this, 1 for the 111,
and then
and
0
0 for the white.
Yep. And for mount point here, we get 2 lines, and we get 2 lines on all of these skis. You get a Candide mount. You guys can't see it from that side. You get a Candide mount there, and then a regular mount on this ski. The Candide mount is minus 3.25, and the regular mount is minus 7.25. And while we're talking about it, this gets pushed back another 1/4 of a centimeter, and this gets pushed back another 1/4 of a centimeter. But it basically remains, similar.
Right.
Same concept among all of them. You just get further and further back, which makes sense because these skis get longer tip rocker than tail rocker. And
Yeah.
We're sort of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. I think that covers it for shape.
Yes, I think you're right.
Anything you're wondering about that I could tell you about in shape, Bob?
No, but my comment on kind of the way that the radius plays out and how Candide skis, when you're watching it, especially from behind on the video, you see he does a lot of tail pushing.
Yep.
Like there's so much energy out of the tail.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge part of how this, this triple radius works.
Yeah, I have a lot of triple radius thoughts.
Yeah, and that's what jumps to the forefront of my mind. And when we were skiing on these, it was hard not to kind of absorb or, gravitate towards that style.
100%.
And, it's either Candide going straight, super fast through the moguls,
Yep.
which is where and if you look right down the ski, I mean, you can see the middle
Very
part is very straight, very flat.
Yeah.
And so when you're standing on the ski in that zone, that's where you feel the stability.
Yep.
And then you can just make that quick turn, push the tails, and then right through in an extremely round and crisp turn.
Yes, it is very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's super fun.
It's very stylistic, though.
It is.
It's an extremely stylistic choice.
Yep.
And it's really hard to, after all the skis that we've skied, to be like, yes, this is the right way to do it,
Correct.
for skis.
No, and I think it's perfectly fair to say that there are a lot of skiers that won't necessarily love these.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of skiers that will love them.
Right.
So, talking more about this ski, 1,800 grams, I brought notes just in case I forgot. 1,800 grams in this 184.
Yeah.
So that's lighter than any equivalent Candide that we've seen before, and lighter by a little bit, but I think by 150 grams than, say, a Mana 2. So it's pretty significant.
Yep.
And then, this ski has a pretty soft flex pattern. I think
Yeah, it's not particular. I wouldn't flex it and say this is a really stiff ski.
No. So
But it's very consistent, just like what we see with the rocker.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. When you're ready, I'd love to have that one back. So I really like what you were saying about performance. This one's upside down. Yeah. And I think it's a really cool concept. So if you think about the different portions of the ski, right underfoot where you're getting that camber is, we'll call it a 30-meter turn radius. So if you're riding a flat ski, no edge angle whatsoever, which we see Candide do often, the ski goes very, very straight. And then the higher your edge angle, the more you're engaging this portion of the ski that normally, when you're skiing straight with a flat base, isn't even touching the snow.
Right.
Because of all the rocker. So it's exactly what you were saying. It gives the ski basically 2 different personalities depending on what you're doing. And that's exactly how it feels when you ski it.
Yeah. it's funny because it makes you want to do that, and
Yeah.
and we joked about it when we were skiing these, like we were trying to channel our inner Candides,
Right.
and it's kind of like you alter your style to ski that way. It's not like a natural thing,
Yeah.
but it's fun to try to do it, and I kind of equate it like, if you're shooting hoops in the park and like you're pretending it's like 3, 2, 1, like you're visualizing these things, and that's
Sure.
kind of how I felt on those.
Feels light.
Yep.
Feels crazy maneuverable and playful. It's not tremendously stable.
No, but the skier is, and
Well,
that's what you're getting with like,
Yeah.
it's not just a pro model like within a brand. It's not like
No.
this is a brand of skis built around a skier,
Right.
which is different than a pro model within a brand.
Yeah. And I think the other important thing to remember, or at least put in your head, is like for Candide, this is narrow.
Right.
So like this is really like these are Candide skis, and this is more of a park ski for somebody like Candide than anything else.
Yeah.
I guarantee that like most of the kind of charging through moguls or big mountain footage that you're gonna see going forward of Candide will be this ski or this ski.
Yeah.
When you see him jibbing around in the park, it'll be this ski. So, yeah, I think that's important to remember.
Totally.
Anything else you want to talk about 101 here? What was it like at your weight? For me,
Yeah.
like I'm much closer to Candide, and I was having a conversation with a friend last night about stability, and he was like, "Oh, they're probably really good at doing tricks and really stable." And I was like, "Yeah, they're not. Like you have to remember that Candide is tiny."
Yeah.
So what is a Candide Skis Resort 101 like when you're 100 or 225 pounds?
I have to think about it more. Same
Yeah.
way I have to think about skiing Amiris Core
Sure.
more.
Sure.
It's not just like a natural thing. It's like, I have to keep the center of my foot right on this line, right in the middle of the ski if I
Yeah.
want to access that stability.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just takes more thought
Sure.
to get your body lined up to the ski. That's all. It's not like
That's what I
it's not
expected you would
difficult.
say.
It's
Yeah.
not physically challenging. It's more mentally challenging.
Yeah. It's funny because for me, there's nothing mentally challenging about
Right.
these skis. Like I get on this ski and I'm like, well, that's pretty much like
Yeah.
ideal for how I personally like to ski. But the one thing that I didn't really get to do on them, which I like more and more and more, the older that I get and the more that I ski various different skis, is carving.
Yeah.
And that's something that like we haven't even had them on like true firm snow yet. So that'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see.
It was it was mix, and that's where the 111 really was interesting because
Yeah.
in the spring we had the soft snow kind of scattered around, and then
Yeah.
that rock hard season old hard pack underneath.
Yeah. Well, I think the 111 is a very different ski.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because I feel like the 101 and the 121 are more similar, like in overall playfulness.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of like it's not a linear progression
Right.
through them. They're different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited to ski this more. Loved skiing it in the park. I unfortunately I was following Bob and did something really stupid around this time and totally tweaked my knee. So couldn't ski park at a very high level, I suppose.
You're just jumping off too much stuff, going too fast.
No, it wasn't that at all.
It's
It was
that channeling.
I wasn't even moving, and
Yeah.
I felt like I almost snapped my leg in half. You didn't even see it because you were long gone at that point. But I'm excited to get back on these and put them through the paces, specifically in the park and specifically on firm snow, to really kind of hone into their limitations
Yeah.
because I know it's there.
Yep. Yeah, and same thing, like these skis with, more symmetrical cuts are, for me, more challenging in bumps and trees.
Yeah.
Because the tail wants to be more engaged
Right.
because of just the roundness of the cut.
Yeah.
So if you're not going straight and just bouncing off things, it's a little more challenging for a more traditional style.
Right. Right, and I think a heavier skier.
Yep.
Yeah. Moving on to the 111. Do you want to hand me that 111?
There you go.
So similar concepts here. A lot of the things that we just talked about kind of remain the same, but where things change here is we have the different amounts of tip and tail rocker. So I am going to assess my notes here. 505 millimeters of tip rocker and 485 millimeters of tail rocker.
Yeah.
So longer in tips and tails than the 101 and asymmetrical. We also drop 1 millimeter out of the camber. So really the shape starts to, I mean, it's not drastically different, but it's certainly different.
It's progressively flattening out, which
Yeah, and lengthening.
And lengthening, yeah.
You know, I think like tip rocker from 101 to 111 is a pretty big jump.
yeah.
Like almost 10 additional centimeters, which is, you know, that's a lot.
Right, for a part of the ski that's not touching the snow.
Right. And then I'll hand you this one back, Bob. It stiffens up quite a bit from 101 to 111.
Yeah,
It's not the stiffest ski in the world, but there's more there.
Yeah, and good energy. I think when you're putting more material, you're just getting the increase in that flex.
Yeah. So for me, the 111, this was the ski where I felt like I was skiing closest to Candide. Because when I got on this, I just wanted to go fast.
Yeah.
Like it goes straight so well, and it just like it plows through things because of that straight cut underfoot, and then like basically endless tip rocker is like, imagine all those times that you've seen Candide just skipping over things, and that's how I felt on this. But it's still pretty agile too. Like there's so much rocker in this ski. So this is, to me, here we were basically a park ski.
Yeah.
Sure, it can be an all-mountain ski, but I think it's an all-mountain ski for somebody who skis park,
Right.
right?
Yeah, totally.
Like it's gotta be. This is a freeride ski.
Yeah, and it's interesting, the naming for BC 111. Like, I don't think it's the touring aspect is intended as much as like.
Well, it's actually interesting because on Candide's website they have like little graphs to
Yep.
show like how appropriate it is for different applications or terrain, and the touring graph is like
Oh,
at the top.
the line
for
is
this
high,
ski.
huh?
So they actually think that the touring application is huge.
I mean,
and
it's
it is 1,900 grams
Yeah, it's an increase of 100 grams per
width.
per
Yeah.
width.
Yeah.
So, it's not like, we talk about this a lot, there are heavier touring skis.
Yeah.
But I think that the notion of more like backcountry in terms of conditions and terrain, like regardless of how you access it,
Could BC be British Columbia?
if AK is Alaska, sure could.
Because that to me makes a lot of sense.
Yep. And then what's resort?
I don't know, resort. But I don't know that that's what they're going for, but
Yeah.
at least like pinpointing an application for the ski.
Yeah.
Whistler, British Columbia would be a fantastic place to
Sure.
ski this.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way that you did, though, that this lended to the most confidence in terms of aggressive skiing.
Yeah, and I thought you had an interesting statement, a statement of your opinion before we started filming that this is the best one,
Yep.
which to me is just like indicative that it works the best for somebody your size.
Yep.
Because it is stiffer and you still have some camber, which I think is important.
Totally.
So super chargy, super fun, but it's not the other kind of ski that we brought up because we were talking about my friend and the conversation that we had about stability. Again, Candide is a very lightweight skier. So when we talk about this ski being stable, it's still like kind of through the lens of who Candide is and how he skis. It's not like a Cochise
Right.
or another.
Like a QST blank, 112 underfoot. Like,
You think QST Blank's a little stronger?
yeah.
I think that's fair. Yeah. So I do think it is the most stable and most powerful out of this collection, but again, we're still living in like a pretty playful world here.
Totally. And just the fact that you can get this thing sideways really easily
Yeah.
just adds to that aspect.
Yeah.
And that's not something that is normally like in my skiing vocabulary.
Sideways.
Sideways.
You don't. Your
I'm not a
skis-
big sideways skier.
Well, and that's like one of the things that impresses me more than anything about your skiing is how often your tips are pointed downhill, and you're not like you still are somehow able to control speed.
Right.
Where I put my skis sideways.
Right. So yeah, that's an adjustment, but these skis allow that to be easier.
Yeah.
And that's true through the line.
Yeah. Are you ready to move on to giant ski?
I love giant ski.
So, again, the same kind of progression with shape happens with this ski. So we get a little bit more tip rocker here, bumps up just 10 millimeters to 515 millimeters, and the tail rocker is the same length as that ski. But where things really change is, again, we're dropping one more millimeter of camber, which means now we're down to none. So this ski truly is flat underfoot, but it is flat underfoot. It's not full rocker,
Right.
which is different than, I don't remember the ski that we were comparing it to, Nocta.
The old Nocta.
The old Nocta,
Yeah.
where you could just kind of like there's some friction there.
Yeah.
And we were playing around with that yesterday. But it is totally flat underfoot, and then there is you can't really have more tip rocker than that.
No, I mean that's the beauty of it, and you know I think our both first impression was that this thing just spins like a top.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like, and we weren't skiing it in Alaska powder and big giant open fields, and I certainly wish we were. We were skiing it in like slop.
yeah, but like that's like this,
75
but that's like the
degrees.
second best.
It is,
You
yeah.
know, which I think is nice.
Yeah, and it was super fun. It is incredibly surfy. You definitely do lose some stability from this ski, which is like, again, interesting because I guarantee you will see Candide Thovex skipping over mogul fields on this giant 121 underfoot, almost fully rockered ski.
Yeah.
And his balance is better than like any skier in the entire world.
Or like any cat.
Yeah. So like if you see Candide doing that on these skis, yes, they can do it. The ski can do it. Does that mean that you can do it? I don't know. Does that mean that you can do it? Probably not,
Yeah.
right? And we talked about yesterday, we're going to do some straight lining through moguls tests.
I can't wait.
I'm nervous.
Yeah. As you should be. It's a challenge. It's like the best skier in the world makes it look easy, but that doesn't mean that it is.
Right. So continuing kind of the progression that we've been talking about, 101 to me really feels like a park ski. 111 to me really feels like a free ride ski, you know, not specifically a powder ski. Like it can handle various snow conditions. This, to me, feels like a powder ski through and through.
Yeah.
So it's not, again, it's like maybe that is a linear progression in performance, but I just think it's interesting that 101 and 121 to me feel more playful than the 111.
Yeah, and just an incredibly surfy and smeary mentality to this 121.
Yeah, and I think this one actually like is the stiffest. You know, it's again
Yep,
adding
more
more
stuff.
adding more
Yep.
stuff, which is like pretty consistent with Candide's long-term concepts or theories of how a ski should be built. When you get this much rocker, you need to have a pretty stiff flex pattern, or else it's just a complete noodle. And you know, when you're straight lining through moguls, you need something, but it's still just taking out the camber underfoot completely. I think even though it's stiffer than 111, it makes it feel more playful, like truly surfy.
Yeah, any softer and you're just looping out of the tail.
Right.
Like uncontrollably.
And you still could loop out of the tail
right.
because there's so much rocker back there.
Yeah.
And I actually found that happening to me maybe on this ski, because there's not much back there. And it was a reminder that like when you think about Candide skiing, When's the last time you ever saw Candide get in the back seat? Never?
I don't know. Never.
You know, his style is much more like, almost like torso forward. Like, he's very engaged and very forward.
Yeah.
And anytime I kind of got in the back seat and felt the ski like starting to wheelie out, I had to remind myself, like, that's not what Candide would be doing.
Right.
Like, Candide would be skiing with purpose and like engaged and forward, not lazy and back here.
Right, which is just another good reminder that that a pro model line requires you to enter that skier's mindset and get out of your own.
100%.
You know, like that. I think we kind of figured that out pretty early on. That like, oh, I'm not Jeff. I'm not Bob today. I'm Candide.
Yeah, which
And
I think
it was really fun.
I think for me that was closer to being me
Yep,
than for you.
totally.
You know, and like that's actually, maybe that's a side of me that like our audience doesn't actually see as often as they might, because there aren't tons of skis like this, and it's kind of fun and like refreshing for me to get on a line of skis that isn't like promoting carving really, it's promoting creativity.
Right.
And that, like, as somebody with a park background who likes to do different things on skis, like, that's super fun. Like, they all ski switch phenomenally well.
Yeah, I think I even went backwards a little bit on this thing. I don't think I could help it, but
I think you went backwards, right, because you just started
I started going and I kept going.
kept spinning around. So I feel like that's it for now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like Candide as an athlete. There's a lot of like quantifiable ways to judge an athlete's success, whether it's Super Bowl rings,
Sure.
you know, like Serena Williams with Grand Slam titles,
Sure.
Michaela Schifrin with
World
skiing
Cup
medals,
wins, yeah.
Usain Bolt with gold medals. Like,
Yeah.
there's quantifiable ways to define certain athletes.
Yeah.
And there's not really that way, but most people know that this is the guy.
Yeah, Candide's more of a feeling and a thought than
And I feel like that comes through
quantifiable
in the product
I do too.
more than other pro models, and like
I do too.
even talking about like Peak Skis by Bodie Miller, like
Very different.
or Van Deer with Marcel Hirscher.
Yeah.
You know, they make things that other people want, whereas with this lineup, this is what he wants.
It's pretty much 3 skis that
Yeah.
are purpose built for what Candide wants
Yeah.
to do on skis.
which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's going to be successful.
Also
because-
interesting that you bring up like quantifiable things, and that like there's no mention of turn radius anywhere
Right.
numerically.
Numerically, yeah.
Like, you know, they all say triple radius on them, but aside from that, there's not there.
Right.
It's like the opposite of Black Crows. That's like you get what 21.3.
Right. They're very specific.
So, yeah, super cool skis. Really excited to ski more of them. I'm particularly excited to spend more time on these two, again, because
Right. Given the proper application, this is what
I'd have a
this
blast.
is what we all want.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
in reality, we're more in the blue and the black zone.
yeah, and they're super fun.
Yeah.
So let us know if you have any questions. Probably should have started the video with when you can buy them.
When can we get them, Jeff?
Next week.
Okay.
That's like I say that with a little bit of hesitancy because you never know with shipping, and you know, like when FedEx and UPS or a freight shipping company is involved, like
And when you say
I don't
next
work
week,
for them.
this is not a live video. This is November 8th, 2023. So
yeah, sorry. So you'll have them in theory November 15th.
mid-November
Yeah,
2023.
yeah. But I know that our order is on its way, at least on its way to the country, and then it's probably just got to get turned around in whatever their North American distributing
Yeah.
spot location is, and then it'll be to us.
Logistics.
Yeah. So we may put up like an early buy pre-sale listing. We'll keep everyone updated as best we can.
Yeah, we have that capability.
Yeah, but you will be able to get them soon. And apologies for leaving like the most important part to the very end, which is, I don't know.
Buried the lead.
Not
That's
unusual.
Journalism 101, Jeff.
Unusual. It's like putting the milk in the back left corner of the
grocery
store.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
they had to watch the whole video to get to
Yeah.
when. Although I'll probably put a timestamp in that says when you can buy them, and then everyone will skip the entire thing and just be right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know if you have any questions. We might not be able to answer them, but we can certainly give you our opinion. And having skied them, I think it's nice that we can at least lean on our own experiences with them. And through this whole conversation, I think experiences are more important than numbers.
100%.
So let us know if you have any questions, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.